Daf Yomi, Tractate Zevachim, page 73a, top of the page, with the words Kol Davar Sheyesh Bo Minyan. Kol Davar Sheyesh Bo Minyan, Afilu B'derabanan Lo Yibatel B'chol Shechem B'doraisa. Any item that is counted, even if it's prohibited by rabbinic law, for example, truma of fruit, cannot be nullified, and all the more so items prohibited by Torah law, such as animals that are disqualified for the altar, as in the Mishnah. Titania, li traditzios shedroso al pi igul, ve'enu yodea be'ezo igul droso al pi chovis, ve'enu yodea be'ezo chovis droso al pi keveres, ve'enu yodea be'ezo keveres droso. This is as is taught in the Braita, Tosefta, Turemot 5:11. The Braita discusses three cases, all of which relate to the tithing of figs, which is an obligation by rabbinic law. The first is the case of a litra of untithed dried figs that were pressed in different vessels and shaped into circles, that one placed into a barrel containing tithed figs, and during the process of producing a circle, he pressed the figs onto the opening of one of the circular vessels in which the circles are formed, and he does not know into which circular vessel he pressed it. The second is the case in which he recalls that he pressed it on the opening of a barrel containing tithed figs, but he does not know into which barrel he pressed it. The third case is that he recalls that he pressed it on the opening of a straw receptacle containing tithed figs, but he does not know into which receptacle he pressed it. In all of these cases, there is a dispute between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda as to the details of a dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua. Rabbi Meir Omer, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Oines Elioinos Kilu Hen Prudois, Yatachtoinos Malos Es Elioinos. Rabbi Meir says, Rabbi Eliezer says, one views the upper layers of possibly untithed dried figs as though they are separate pieces rather than one unit. And the lower ones, which were there beforehand and have certainly been tithed, nullify the upper ones, as there are enough circles of figs to nullify the upper layer. One does not need to tithe the figs at the top of any of the containers. Yehoshua Amer, Im yesh mea pumin, ya'alu bimla b'pumin asurin, v'yashulayin mutarin. Rabbi Meir continues, by contrast, Rabbi Yehoshua says, if there are 100 openings of containers present there, the untithed litra of figs on the opening of one of the containers is nullified by a ratio of 1 part of untithed figs to 100 parts of similar untithed figs. But if not, all of the layers of figs at the openings of the containers are prohibited, meaning viewed as untithed, as one of them certainly contains an untithed litra that has not been nullified, and the figs on the insides of the vessels are permitted, as the untithed figs certainly did not reach there. This is Rabbi Meir's version of the dispute. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Im yesh shamei pumin ya'alu bimla v'pumin asurin v'chulim. The Braita continues. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Eliezer says, if there are 100 openings of containers with tithed figs present there, in addition to the untithed figs, it is nullified in the 100. But if not, all of the layers of figs at the openings of the containers are prohibited, meaning viewed as untithed, as one of them certainly contains an untithed litra that has not been nullified, and the figs on the insides of the vessels are permitted, as untithed figs certainly did not reach there. Okay, I might have said that, but I might have said that. Okay, it's a good review. Anyway, Rabbi Yehoshua Omer, Afilu yesh sham shlosh me'as pumin lo ya'alu Rabbi Yehuda continues his statement. By contrast, Yehoshua says, even if there are 300 openings present there, the layer at the top of the container is not nullified. This litra cannot be nullified in any manner. As Rabbi Yehoshua maintains that even an item occasionally sold by units, such as a circle of dried figs, can never be nullified. Rabbi Yehuda continues, but if one pressed the litra of dried figs into a circle, into a circular vessel, along with other dried figs, but does not know onto which place, meaning which side of the circular vessel he pressed it, whether, for example, to its northern side or to its southern side. In this case, as the prohibited litra is not located in a defined place and it cannot be distinguished from the others, it is not considered an item of significance, and everyone says that it is nullified. Accordingly, the ruling of the Mishnah that animals are disqualified from being sacrificed, are not nullified, is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehoshua, as stated by Rabbi Eliezer, that an item occasionally sold by unit is not nullified. Rabbi Yochanan's statement that only an item whose manner is exclusively to be counted as significant and cannot be nullified is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rav Ashi says, you may even say that the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, meaning Rabbi Meir, who maintains that an item is not always counted as nullified in a majority. The reason is that living creatures are significant, and therefore they are not nullified. Kol de parish medet miruba parish. Kol de parish miruba parish. Die 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 die. Die 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 die. Die 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 die. Die 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 die. Kol de parish miruba parish equals 1483. Where are we? This is a concept in Shas. The Gemara raises a difficulty with the ruling of the Mishnah that all the animals are prohibited, and let us draw out the sacrifice of one animal from the mixture and say, apply the principle, any item that separates from a group is assumed to have separated from the majority. Accordingly, the animal that was sacrificed is presumed to be fit. Kol de parish miniruba parish. Accordingly, the animal that was sacrificed is presumed to be fit. One can continue in this manner until only two animals from the mixture remain. The Gemara questions this suggestion. Should we draw out an animal from the mixture? But this is the removal of an item from its fixed place. And now we turn to 73b, top of the page with the words Chol Kavua. It's another pretty common thing. And there is a principle that anything fixed is considered as though it was half and half, meaning equally balanced, and it remains a case of uncertainty. Chol kavua k'mechza al mechza dami. These are like very big concepts. And I was thinking about putting together some kind of like a lexicon of all of these concepts, like Dayo Haba Min Hanidon, Dayo Laba Min Hadin Lihiyot Kenidon, that's a pretty common one, or Kam Le Midraba Bine, or all of these Talmudic kind of concepts, and these are definitely right up there with all that. Kol de Parish Midruba Parish, and Kol Kavua Kemechza Al Mechza Dami. These are fundamental principles of Shas. And if I get the gematrias, then it's a whole different way of learning. You should learn it numerically. But anyway, that's a side point. We're on top of 73b now. Kol kavua k'mechza mechza zami elanishke nich beshenu denaidi, or in brackets denaidan, benema kol deparish miduru beparish. And there's a principle: anything fixed is considered as though it was half and half, meaning equally balanced, and it remains a case of uncertainty. The Gemara clarifies its suggestion. Rather, let us push the intermingled animals so that they all move from their places, which negates the fixed status of the prohibited item. And accordingly, let us say, with regard to each animal, any item that separates from a group is assumed to have separated from the majority. Rava says, now that the sages have said that we do not sacrifice any of them, this is evidently a rabbinic decree, lest 10 priests come simultaneously and sacrifice all the animals in the mixture together, not one at a time. Therefore, the fact that there could be a method to permit the animals is immaterial. One of the sages said to Rava, if that is so, do you hold that the large basin on which the sacrificial portions of the animal are placed is prohibited? In other words, is it possible that these animals, which were slaughtered when they were initially declared permitted, after being separated from their places, could later become prohibited again when their sacrificial portions are ready to be burned on the altar? Mishum Shema Yavoyu Asar Koyanim Bivasachas Vikechu Asar Koyanim Bivasachas Mieshal Ela Amarava Mishum Kavuha. Rava responded that he did not mean there is a concern that 10 priests would sacrifice their sacrificial portions simultaneously. Rather, the decree is due to the concern lest when the animals move, 10 priests will come simultaneously and take them from the mixture. As all or most of the animals were separated simultaneously in this case, it is assumed that the prohibited animal is among those that were separated. The Gemara asks, is it possible for 10 priests to take these scattered animals simultaneously? Rather, Rava says that one may not allow the animals to be sacrificed by moving them due to a decree that if this is allowed, one may, in another circumstance, allow them to be sacrificed even when they are taken from a fixed location. Rava said, now that the sages say in the Mishnah that we do not sacrifice any of the animals, if we did sacrifice one of them, the offering does not affect acceptance for the owner. Rav Huna Bar Yehuda raised an objection to Rava from a Mishnah in Kingdom 22b with regard to a bird sin offering that was intermingled with a bird burnt offering, or a bird burnt offering that was intermingled with a bird sin offering, even if the ratio was 1 in 10,000, they almost died, and there is no remedy for these birds. It is not known which is which, and their sacrificial rites are performed differently. The Mishnah continues, in what case is this statement said? In the case of a priest who consulted the court to ask how he should proceed, but in the case of a priest who did not consult the court but sacrificed them of his own accord, if there was an equal number of bird sin offerings and bird burnt offerings, and he performed all their sacrificial rites above the red line that circumscribes the altar at its midpoint, as required for burnt offering, half of the birds are fit, as in any event the burnt offerings were sacrificed properly and half are unfit. Limata mechse kasher mechse pasul. Achas limata achas limala shneen or shtehen pasulois. Shani omer chatas karev lamala oile karev lamata. Likewise, if he performed all their sacrificial rites below the red line, half are fit, as in any event the sin offerings were sacrificed properly, and half were unfit. If he performed the sacrificial rites of one of the birds below the red line and one of the birds above the red line, they are both unfit, as I say that the sin offering was sacrificed above the red line and the burnt offering was sacrificed below. The Mishnah proves that an offering that is prohibited to be sacrificed as part of a mixture, it is fit after the fact, which contradicts the statement of Rava. Rather, Rava would claim that this matter depends on a dispute between Tanaim. The statement of Rava is in accordance with the opinion of the one who says that living creatures that become disqualified are permanently rejected from being sacrificed on the altar, and this animal was rejected when it was part of the mixture. That ruling of the Mishnah in Kinim is in accordance with the opinion of the one who says that living creatures are not permanently rejected from the altar. Therefore, if the animal was sacrificed, it is fit. The Gemara raises a difficulty, but there is the case of slaughtered offerings that are rejected from the altar, concerning which everyone agrees that these are rejected. Even those who say that living creatures generally are not rejected agree that in this case they should be rejected.